All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's class. We'll just wait for a few minutes for some other people to join in so we could start fully, right? So just like we did yesterday, we'll do a recap of what we did the previous day, then we'll go into today's class. So in the meantime, just wait. The slides will be moving in, so you just get to see what we did yesterday and have like a recap, okay? All right. Um, Welcome, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Hello, everyone. Don't worry if you're not hearing anything. I I was not talking. I was waiting for a few people to come in. Okay. So you hear me? I'm sure you can hear me. All right. So let's just do a bit of discussed, right? So we talked about typography. We talked about type, right? Can you guys hear me now? Can you see me? Can you hear me? Can you see my screen? Okay, cool. All right, so we talked about type, and I remember saying it is just simply the use of text. And I also said it is everywhere we look, from the books we read to chatting on your phone to the signs we see on the streets and a lot of other places. Your favorite snack, magazines, calendar, typography is everywhere around us. So we said it's just the style or appearance of text. And we went on to discuss. So this was the examples I was talking about: the stop sign, the bumper sticker, your favorite snack. Every one of them has typography. Okay. Now we went into the common types of font. Remember, I said typography is like an estate that has buildings which are called fonts that have sub-buildings which are typefaces. So the fonts have types, which is where this comes in. So serif fonts, sans serif, and display fonts. And remember I mentioned that display fonts have a lot of other categories under it, from the fancy font to the script or handwritten cursive, uh, like you see that I use the Old English font falls under display. Okay. Now I also said that it can be a bit intimidating because it's a lot to deal with, because there are some kind of languages we use in typography like leading, tracking, kerning, and hierarchy. But I also mentioned to you that most of the time, the fonts that you use for your design, they already come with a perfect set, or should I say perfect setting for those things. So every font has a default leading, default tracking, default kerning, right? So most times all you need to do is just select a font and you're good to go. In rare cases, you might need to reduce the leading, you might need to increase the tracking, you might need to adjust the kerning depending on the project. And I say in rare cases, right? So the common types of fonts: serif, sans serifs, and display. Then we mentioned that serifs are fonts that have um, the stroke, which is this right here, this here, this here, this, the I. So those things are what makes it stroke. And I said they have a traditional feel and can be used for classic projects like magazines, newspaper, maybe your wedding invitation and stuff like that. Then sans serif, which which is French for no serif or without serif, is modern, and it has readability, it has legibility and acceptability. That's because it is easy to read. It's not hurtful in the eyes. That is why on all your websites that you visit, they are mostly sans serif fonts. On all the social media platforms you visit, sans serif fonts. Even on your mobile phone, the fonts used to outline every icon, every setting, and everything is sans serif. So it's easy to read. Okay. Now, display. We also mentioned how display fonts come in different styles. Like I said, scripts, black letter, monotype, fancy,
name it. There are quite a lot of them. They all fall under display. Okay. And I said, because of how decorative their nature is, it's best to use them for only the titles or only the headers. Or if you have a design that is text heavy, you could just use that for you could just use decorative fonts for that. That is why we have the sample here, Battle of the Bands. This is a decorative font. Okay. Now, choosing a font. I think someone asked the question yesterday about this, and we talked about how choosing a font is so determinant on the language you want your design to communicate. And I mentioned the example of sending a love letter to my mom, right? Sorry, sending a love letter to my mom where I wanted to tell my mom I love you, and I used a graphic font. And a lot of you agreed that if she sees it, she will be scared. Because I mean, even if someone sent I love you to me with a graphics font, I would be scared, right? So depending on the language of the communication, that is what enables you to be able to decide what um, fonts to use for that project at a time, right? So it could be casual, it could be neutral, it could be exotic. I remember saying exotic fonts are used for maybe a royal event, a banquet, um, a wedding invitation, you know. So you just decide that, okay, this is the kind of project I want to do. What category does this project fall in when I want to pick a font? Is it casual? Is it serious? Is it neutral? Is it exotic? Should it be graphic heavy? You know? So when you decide that, then you can now go into fonts. And I said, by all means possible, avoid these fonts that are here. Try to avoid these fonts. Reason they are outdated and they are overused. How far? Designers that do not like the generational hatred for them. So people just wake up and be like, oh, I don't like them. Do you get it? So, and I said, if you're tempted to use them because they are always on your system, you don't have to install them, they come by default. So if you're tempted to use them, instead look for modern fonts that look a bit closely to them because there are lots of fonts that look alike. Like the font I used for this slide is Gilroy. Now, Gilroy has a couple of other fonts that look just like it. Gilroy Gotham has a similarity to Gilroy. Century Gothic has a similarity to Gilroy, right? Now, combining fonts. I remember talking about combining fonts. It's essential, and you need to understand what it takes to combine fonts. You need to also know what fonts to combine. And I mentioned you can combine a longer font and a shorter font. You can combine a serif and a sans serif. You can combine a sans serif and a script font, like I did here on this slide. If you look at it closely, you see what I'm saying. So this right here is Gilroy, which is on the sans serif. On the scripts, you get the loop version end of it. Okay. So mentioned that simple um, in a more than if you go beyond three. And interestingly, okay. All right. So sorry about that. It was a glitch and it has been sorted now. So let's just quickly round up the summaries. There are fonts that have so many other categories that you can use. So now, in combining fonts, long, which are taller fonts, and shorter fonts, or scripts and serif, or all uppercase and lower cases, which are all ways to combine your fonts. Okay. Now, I said there are other important terms. Remember, this is where kerning, this is where leading, and this is where tracking comes in. You already have an idea of hierarchy, but these are other ends. Doesn't mean top of your head, but just yeah, most of they have. Can you hear me? sorry for the yeah, sorry for the guys, your what from one and to the next. Give you an example of how hierarchy when you see used to guide thing, then followed by the set of words which are in other words. Okay, I need your feedback. Can you hear me clearly? If you can hear me clearly, type on the chat box. Okay, great, great. Okay, thank you. You can hear me clearly now. Very good, very good, very good, very good, very good, very good. Real quick, we will just give me a minute, okay? Okay. I'm back. Sorry for the many glitches. It's all solved now, so we're good to go. We're gonna have a very smooth and insightful class. Okay. All right. We were wrapping up our intro, our discussion on typography from yesterday. So remember leading, tracking, kerning, and yeah, I talked about bad kerning. And I also mentioned that most fonts already have a perfect kerning for you. So you shouldn't need to worry how to adjust. But if you see a font that has a bad kerning, the best advice is just change the font to another font. Just change the font to another font that works. Okay. Now I said putting it all together. Someone was asking what does putting it all together means. Putting it all together just simply means putting the kerning, the leading, tracking, hierarchy, um, understanding how to combine fonts and choosing fonts based on the language you want your design to communicate. So that's why we put it all together. And this is the big picture. This is what it looks like when you put it together. This is what it looks like. Okay. So these were samples that we ran through yesterday. We looked through them to we had fun with this one yesterday too. And yeah, life is like dominoes and one wrong move and everything you work for is falling apart, which is a very popular example that we used yesterday. And then we talked about color, which is very interesting because color is also everywhere we look, from your phone, your wall, the sky, the road, everything has color. Everything has color, right? And we talked about how it helps you to communicate emotions when you're designing because colors have emotions. Okay. And we talked about color theory, which are the basics. And I remember asking you how you learned primary and secondary colors back in school, right? And we talked about the red, yellow, blue as primary colors and how you mix each of them to give you the secondary colors. And then mixing the primary and the secondary colors together gave us the color wheel, which is what we have here, right? Then from the color wheel, we moved into hue, which is just another word for color. Saturation, which just tells you if the color appears more vibrant, which means highly saturated, or subtle, which means desaturated, right? Then we went into value. I remember someone mentioned value when we're talking about the principles and fundamentals of design. And I told you that value is not one of them, but this is where value comes in. This is where value plays a major role because value tells how dark or how light the color is. The same thing. Okay? They are distinctly different because value adds darkness and lightness to the color, while saturation adds either vibrance or dullness to the color. Okay? Then creating color schemes, which was a very interesting topic we talked about, where we mentioned the formula called color harmony and how if you use monochromatic, which is just picking one color and having to go saturated. And we talked about analogous three colors and they give you a formula, or you desaturate them, you get another color. Then we moved into complementary. And I remember talking about the perfect example for red and green, which is Christmas. And I said, Christmas has been associated with red and green so much that even though in recent times a lot of people are trying to add gold, trying to add blue, and maybe a touch of black, but red and green stands out, and it has become a Christmas branding. Okay, now complementary is just two colors on the opposite side, and I said there is split complementary, which is adding one color to the opposite of each, which gives a longer shaped triangle. Yeah. Then triadic, which is a perfect triangle, all equal size, gives us this. And I gave you the example of talked about the Joker. Now he's a funny character, and then tetradic. And I remember drawing this triangle, this rectangle to fit into the different size you could get it. So it's not rigid, right? And the perfect thing to do when using a tetradic formula is to allow one color be dominant and the other colors act as a touch of each of them, a touch of themselves. Okay. Then I said avoiding common mistakes. Then we got into this very not so good looking picture that had some people squint their eyes. And then we had to desaturate the background to make it look good. Right? Then I showed you this example. And some people said there's the website on the left is majorly for kids, while the one on the right is the good one, which is for everybody. But if I advise you, even the one on the left, don't allow kids to see it. It's bad. It's really bad. Okay. Then I said choosing the right colors. Talked about that. And remember, just like typography, so you see that typography and color, they have like many things that vary that are like in sync. Because for color, to select the color, you need to decide the kind of projects and the tone, or the tone, which tells either is it serious or is it casual. Same thing in typography. The language, what are you trying to communicate? That helps you choose the font. In color, is the same thing. So you see the two perfect example here: the card of a banker and the card of a hairstylist. Two beautiful designs and two different color schemes. One has brighter colors and gives a modern vibe because it looks hyper creative. That's because the hairstylist is a creative person. The banker, on the other hand, is not a creative person. He just wants to be able to calculate the money and tell what the financial market is doing, blah, blah, blah. You get it. So we use a saturated color, a desaturated color for that. Okay. Then I said finding inspiration. Inspiration is everywhere. And I also mentioned that you could get color from everything, from a picture, from the road, on a website that has already made color schemes available for you. All you need to do, just go there, pick one that works for you, and use for your design. And I also talked about how it influences into the colors of your outfits. Then we went into questions and answers, right? So for today, we are going to talk about layouts and composition. Somebody said we skipped to discuss about how one can create a font and make available for general use at the end of yesterday's session. Okay, second question was already made fonts. Can it be reviewed in a way to recreate initial fonts? Okay, so Oluwafemi, I will note this down. Remind me again, okay? We will talk about it at the end of this class. How to create, what it takes to create fonts. And you said already made font can it be reviewed in a way of creating an initial font? No, because you need to have the editable files. You need to have the license files for that. You know, it's like designing a flyer. If I give you the flyer in maybe JPEG or PDF or PNG, you cannot really edit it because you do not have the source file. But I designed it, whether in Photoshop, whether in Illustrator, whether in CorelDRAW, and I have those source files and I can edit the design to fit any way I need. Okay, so that's how it works for fonts as well. So Oluwafemi, I'm giving you this task. You remind me by the end of the class. You can set an alarm. Okay, the class ends by 12. You can set an alarm, so you remind me. So we're going to layout and composition. Now, you're wondering layout, composition. How do they work? What does he need? Why is it required for design, right? Now, the first question is, in many ways, layout and composition are the building blocks of design, because you might be thinking, what is composition, right? Composition plays and composition are the building blocks of design, which means every design has a layout and every design has a composition. Remember, we talked about the rule of thirds the other day. I think that was day one, rule of Okay, so every design, like I said, has a layout. Every design is made up of a composition, right? They give your work structure and they make it easy to navigate from the margins to the side and the contents in between. Look at this. This is the perfect layout and composition. So layout and composition work hand in hand. They are not that layout is different, composition is different. It is layout and composition, right? So the layout could be text on one side, image on the other side. But the composition is what shows how that image and the text are properly arranged. That is called a composition. I will show you more examples as we go on. Now, why is composition so important? In short, it is the way your content is arranged. I just mentioned that. It doesn't matter if you're working with text only or images only or just elements in a graphic design. Without a thoughtfully well-composed layout, your work would basically fall apart like dominoes that we saw yesterday, right? So you see how it is very important. I said it is the building block of design. That's one. Two, it is the way your content is arranged, which means by the time you open your software and you start designing, you're already doing what? Laying and using composition. Okay? Now, you have to understand that there are principles. Yesterday, I mentioned that every aspect of design has its own principles. So with that, sometimes you could have a repetition of the principles and fundamentals that we mentioned before. Like yesterday, we saw that hierarchy came in play during typography, and we saw balance came in play during the fundamentals. Now, another 5 principles are going to come in play, and let's see which one is repeated and which one isn't. Okay. Now, the key to mastering layout and composition is to think like a designer. Remember yesterday, I said a designer is one person that looks beyond what they see because you are the eye of the community. Now, it is easier to think as a designer because there are principles that can help you, right? To transform your work, to sharpen your eye for design, to keep in mind during your next project. There are things that you can apply. Okay. Yeah, so now these are the principles: proximity, white space, alignment, contrast, and repetition. Now, you see white space playing again, contrast and repetition, the three of them reoccurring. Now, let's talk about proximity. Proximity is all about using visual space to show relationships in your content. It is actually simple. You just have to do with related items that are grouped together. For instance, maybe blocks of text or elements in the design, as you see in the next page. This. Now, you can see the first design up there is a call card. The distance between each text and the distance between the text themselves and the icons, that is called proximity. And you can see that that's asymmetric balance. That the distance between all these text put together. Let me just do a short drawing for you. See the distance between this and this right here. The space is in between. That distance is proximity. Now, groups that are not related to each other should be separated. You can see that all the texts are on one side, all the icons are on another side. That's because they are grouped as all text and they are grouped as all icons, right? Now, in all of this, proximity makes your work easy to understand at a glance. You can just tell this is the details that I need. The icons are complementing the details, or these are the images I need to see. The text are complementing this. Okay. Okay, Adela, let me just, I'll do that for you. If you can hear me now and your network is good, just let me know in the chat. Adela, can you hear me now? Is your network okay now? Good, good, good. Okay, great. So we've not gone far. So you can see layout and composition. I said composition and layout are the building blocks of design. They give your work structure and make it easier to navigate. Okay, now this is what a layout and composition looks like. That doesn't mean that this is what it looks like every time. Okay, it looks like this at this time because of this particular project. When I get to the part where I show you examples of projects that have layouts, in fact, all projects have layouts and composition. When I get to the part where I show you examples, you see the layouts and you get them. You get to understand them better. Good. I'm glad you guys can hear me clearly. So I said, why is composition so important? And this is it is the simplest way to say it is the way you arrange your content in your design. Capiche? Very simple. You want to make a design that sells maybe fruits. The way you decide to put the fruits, the way you decide to put the text, the way you decide to place the logo, and probably social media handles All of that put together is called composition. Okay? Now, I said there are 5 principles that back composition and layout. And I also said the key to mastering that is for you to think like a designer. And thinking like a designer is very easy. It's not a big deal. Thinking like a designer is very simple. Why? All you have to do is look beyond what you see. Always look beyond what you see. Because designer is meant to be what? The eye of the community. I think that should be our early morning greeting. Well, when we greet in the morning, we say, "Who is the designer?" The designer is the eye of the community who looks at things differently and looks beyond what he sees. Because I'll keep saying it, it needs to stick. You need to understand that you have a role. Okay, so I mentioned also earlier in the previous classes that every aspect of design has its own principle. So in case you see hierarchy in typography, hierarchy in fundamentals, hierarchy in principles of design, and you see hierarchy in colors again, don't keep thinking, why is hierarchy everywhere? But just understand that hierarchy is important and it's also in principle, and it helps each phase of design. Okay. Now, the 5 principles of layout and composition are proximity, white space, alignment, contrast, and repetition. Now, the first one is proximity. And I was just telling you about how proximity is the use of visual space to show relationships in your content. This is the way where related items are grouped together. And I gave you a simple example. All text to the left, all icons to the right. That is how proximity works. All text to the left, all icons to the right. That's proximity. Okay? Now you can see the second design as well. It helps to understand at a glance. It gives you easier understanding. When you look at it, you just tell that, okay, I want to see all the text and the design is complemented by the icons. Or I want to see all the images and the design is complemented by the text. Okay? Now, the next one is white space. I'm sure we are all familiar with white space by now. White space is important in every composition because it helps to create balance. And white space is not definitely white. It doesn't have to be white. It can be whatever color. We already know about white space. So let me not take too long on this. So you can see this design now. Looking at this design, this composition here, you can see a lot of white space around it. These white spaces all around this, all these parts are white spaces. They are all white spaces. And you see how beautiful it is. Imagine the text is big and it's touching the edges. And imagine the image is as big and also touching the edges. I'm sure you would not want to look at that design more than once. Why? Because everything is in your face. Why is it in your face? Because it lacks white space. So you see that white space is very important and it plays a role, a very major role in designing, in your composition as well. Okay. Now, the next one is alignment. Somebody was explaining alignment the first day where he talked about alignment is how your texts are aligned, your images are aligned, your elements are aligned. It just helps you align everything perfectly. Maybe you're aligning everything to the left or aligning everything to the right or to the bottom part of your composition. And alignment also, like I said, some fonts have, or most fonts have automatic kerning, leading, tracking. The same thing for alignment. Most fonts are auto-aligned. You are the one to decide what type of alignment you want, whether you want a left alignment or right alignment or whatever, but it is automatic. In your typing on your phone, alignment is automatic. When you type in emails, it is automatically aligned. Okay. Now, the beautiful thing about alignment and the easiest way to get it right is to be consistent. Just if you align the first text to the left, just continue aligning everything to the left. Look at this design on this one. Look at this old-fashioned shortcake. See, it is all aligned to the left, right? It is all aligned to the left. This one is aligned to the center. This is center alignment. Okay? Now, when aligning objects by yourself, for instance, maybe your image or text boxes, it is best, like I said, to keep it consistent. Be consistent. Be consistent. Be consistent. Consistency helps you to stick with the right alignments. If you decide you want to play around alignment and you align the first one to the left, align the next one to the right, and align the other one to the middle, you have successfully distracted your audience from going in a flow. And I'm sure you know what that means. It means that they would actually not be engaged on that content. Now, it might help you to imagine your content arranged inside of a grid. Just like the example you see below, notice how there's an invisible line centered each image to the text. You can see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. There's a Japanese phrase for this, or a Chinese phrase that says ak suk san, which means slay evil immediately, which is just a rephrase of this see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil, right? But what I'm trying to tell you is the alignment between each image or illustration to the text is very important. You can see that there's an invisible line. Okay, that's aligning your image and your text together. Now, the grid lines you see in between, like I mentioned when we were talking about rule of thirds, that's what those grid lines are for. They help you to see where you are placing your content. Remember, I said on your camera phones, when checking where to take your image, where to take your picture, the grid helps you to decide where you want to place the pictures, the composition, which gives you a perfect alignment, which is what you see here today. Now, it's the attention to detail that makes the composition easier to navigate. Without consistent alignment, your work will start to feel what? Disorganized. And I'm sure we do not want that. So let's keep it consistent, okay? Now, the next principle for layout and composition is contrast. It is very important. We already have an understanding of what contrast is. We know that it deals with color, it deals with sizes, it deals with text and weight, right? So it could be in different sizes. All you need to know is if the image is big, the text shouldn't be too big. If the text is big, the image shouldn't be big. That's how contrast work. That's how contrast work. It simply means that one item is different from the other. Very simple. Okay. And in layout and composition, contrast help you do many things. Catches the reader's eyes, creates emphasis, or call attention to something important. Right? Now, here's an example. A caution sign. you can see how contrast is on caution and emphasis is on caution. And that brings about what? Contrast. Now you can see that the image on the right and the text on the left, they vary in sizes, right? Even the text themselves vary in sizes. That's contrast. If every of the text is as big as caution, then there might be a problem. Okay, so keep that in mind when creating your compositions. If one is big, the others should reduce, so that there's a direction in how the readers will read it. They see caution, they see radiation, then they see may cause superpowers, so they get to understand. Now, the last principle is hierarchy. Contrast is also closely tied to hierarchy, which is a visual technique that can help the viewer navigate your work. We already understand hierarchy. We talked about hierarchy yesterday. We talked about hierarchy on Monday as well. So hierarchy just shows, read this first, then read this next, and read this next. It helps you, right? See it. Is a perfect example of hierarchy. Save the dates. The first thing you see when you look at this composition is save the date. Then the next thing you see, which is B, Corey, and Anthony. Then you now have to see, okay, save the dates for the marriage of Corey and Anthony, Las Vegas, Nevada, January 2018. Right? Okay, so we understand hierarchy. Now, repetition. Sorry, I said the last one. This is repetition. Repetition is the last one. So, repetition. Like I said, we already know what repetition is, just like we know what hierarchy is. But in composition, repetition is a reminder that every project should have a consistent look and feel. The simple way repetition works in composition is, take for example, you visit a brand's social media page and there's no uniformity in all their designs, which means that they're not repeating elements on the designs. They're not creating lasting effect with the use of repetition. There will be a problem for people visiting that page. But if there's a perfect use of repetition, like for instance, now, looking at this design, you see the sort of rainbow-like line over there, right? The rainbow-like line over there is on this first design. Now, these are the other two designs. You can see those set of colors used on the chart and also as bullet points for the options here. You can still see those set of colors used here as well. That is what repetition means in composition. That is how repetition works. So in competition, repetition is not the use of, it's not creating patterns, it's not repeating shapes or repeating text to create pattern or texture. It is repeating elements in different designs to communicate unison so that these designs can be associated. The very, very good example is MTN. If you see an MTN design anywhere, you would know why, because of the dominant yellow. They use that everywhere. So it's easy for you to relate it to MTN and say, oh, I saw another MTN ad today. Right? That's what repetition does in composition. Now, putting it all together, you might say layout and composition are the unsung heroes of design. It is easy to overlook their role, but they play part in everything you do. Because even from day one, where we'll be talking about balance, we've been talking about hierarchy, contrast, unity, and all these things. All of those things come into play when you are doing what? Layout and composition. Because layout and composition is how you arrange your content or your text on your design. If those things are not properly arranged, or if you're not using layout and composition, then you are obviously not doing any design, because the basics of design is layout and composition. That is why I say here, they are the unsung heroes. People don't really know that layout and composition exists because people just do their thing. They don't know that, oh, this is a composition, right? So the principle you just learned can help you elevate any project. All it takes is a little attention to detail. This is the second time I'm mentioning attention to detail. For you to look beyond what you see as a designer, you need to pay attention to details. And you can create very good stuff, very, very good looking compositions if you're attentive enough. You just need to see the best possible way to arrange. Now, see, this is a very simple menu, and it's aligned to the center of the page. And the choice of font is a longer font and a shorter font. And there's contrast for modern E3 because it's on a white shape. That creates contrast. And you can see different sizes used in the headers: appetizer, soup and salad, main course. They are big enough. So you see them. They are all caps. Then what the next things written under them, the options, are the small letters. Okay. Now, this is an example of a layout and a composition. What you see on the left here is a newspaper article. What you see on the right is a book cover. Two separate kind of designs, but you can still see that they make use of alignment, they make use of proximity, they make use of hierarchy, they make use of repetition as well. Okay, same on both sides. Now, I want you guys to tell me, on the second design, the book cover, what do you see? Alignment, hierarchy, proximity, white space, or contrast? Hierarchy, yeah. White space, correct. Texture, we talked about texture yesterday. Rule of thirds, okay. Yeah, there's a lot of contrast, there's a lot of white space. Emphasis, exactly. If you see Nigeria has a different color from every other thing on the design, that creates emphasis on Nigeria. Line, repetition, that's good as well. Alignment, yes, everything on the design is aligned to the center of the page. And you can see the choice of font. Tall font for the title of the book, short font for the text that says an intelligently captured perspective, blah, blah, blah. Short, small caps, and the one on top, all caps. Very good, Gillette. You saw the font. Nice. Okay, so we're moving quickly into the next topic for today: the power of images. The power of images. I know we've been talking about image this, image that, illustration, all the principles we've been mentioning, how you arrange your image, how you arrange your text. we've been calling image. Now, image has finally appeared. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome image. Okay, so now you can see different kinds of image on the screen. That's because image has a major part. It plays a major part in your design. Sometimes all you need in a design is just a very good image and a simple line of text. That's all you need sometimes. Simple line of text and a simple image, and you're good to go. Now, let me quickly tell you about how images work and sourcing for the right images. Give me a minute. Okay. All right. Now, images can be very powerful, right? They are a powerful force in a design. Like I said, they play a major role, an important role. And we naturally are drawn to images from either beautiful to high definition photos or carefully crafted graphics. They usually are the first thing we see. On my screen, you see an image that is controlled, or should I say, converted into a design. I see you people clapping. You're clapping for image. Well done. Now, see how the image translates to design and see the difference. The first thing you see is the image before you even read the text. That's what I just told you. However, images aren't just for decorative purposes. Okay, they are like the hook that draws the viewers in. Like I said, the first thing you see is the image. It can help you connect with the audience and send very strong impression. Looking at this, you already tell that, okay, I'm trying to sell that there's a basketball court in wherever that is, right? Now, finding the right images for your project. Take a look at this. Finding the right images for your projects. Can you see this? Can you see what's on the screen? Okay, tell me quickly in the chat, what do you see? List out what you see. Come on. You see a key, okay? A debit card, a phone and a hand. The net changed in the second image. Yeah, the key, the hand holding a phone, a key, a debit card. Now, on the design, did you see the debit card on the design? The debit card sort of disappeared on the design, right? That's because the image, what is required for that image is not the debit card, but the hand. The hand is required to hold the key. That is why you see on the design, the hand is holding the key, while this other hand still holds the phone. Now you can see how image played a major role. Yes, the key replaced the debit card in the hand. Exactly. Yes, there's a writing on the phone. That's debit. That's a debit alert. Okay. So you see that it is important in finding the right images for your design. But then the question is, where do you find these images? Where? How? So most times you don't have to be an artist to use images in your own work. All it takes is little creativity. I think I mentioned research yesterday. and a willingness to think outside the box, because the designer is the one that looks beyond what they see. You are able to think outside the box because you're looking beyond the box. You can tell that, okay, how do I interpret this copy that says swap out your rent debit cards with a brand new house key? How do I represent that? Then you have to think, you have to do a research. Now, sometimes you could download these images online. So they're called stock images. They can be downloaded on stock websites, right? It could be image of an hand, image of a phone, image of a key. It depends on what project you're working on. You can use Google, but I'll get to that part. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why it's important to use stock images and not just go to Google and carry any image. Because there's such a thing called image rights. Okay? In fact, now that we have AI, you can generate your own kind of image. Let me even break it out to you. The image of the hand holding a phone is a generated AI image. I'm sure you didn't notice that until I said it now. That's a generated AI image. The image holding the phone, the hand holding the phone. Google and Pinterest are not for image search. Okay? Don't go to Google or Pinterest to search for images for designs. The reason is you need your images to be crisp, clean, which means they should be in a very good quality. Yes, Tessie, that's why the hand is so smooth, because it is AI. AI is used to smoothing things up. Okay, so there are countless online sources, like I said, stock images, where you can get images from. They were created for you to come and patronize them. Most of the images are for sale. Some of them have free images where you can download. There is Shutterstock, there is iStock, there's Getty Image, there's Pixabay, there is Freepik. So there are lots of places you can get images from. Quality images. Remember, I said quality images. Because if your image is not clear or is blurry on a design, trust me, the same way it is the first thing you see on a design when it's clear. When it's blurry, it's also the first thing you see on a design. Now, choosing the effective stock. Like I said, there are numerous and lots of stock images, stock websites to get. But let's bring it home, right? We're in Africa, we're in Nigeria, which is predominantly we have people with dark skins. So there are some stock websites that have very little content on dark skinned people. So because I would not be doing this design and using a white person's hand holding a phone or a white person's hand holding a key. It will not be relatable to the audience, right? Because the audience I'm communicating with are dark skinned people. Okay. Now, there are sites that allows you to browse and select from. Remember, I said some of them are paid, right? And some of them they can be what's that word now? They can be illustrations. It doesn't necessarily have to be real images. It can be illustrations. Okay. Now, um, depending on the kind of content you want to create, should I say the kind of design, the kind of composition you are making, that's what depends. The kind of message you're passing, that's what will help you to decide, okay, I am going to use illustration, or I'm going to use a real image, or I'm going to just use shapes, or I'm going to just use text like we have here, just text, or image and a text, or images, that's multiple image and text. It's up to you to decide, right? Now, some stock images are just generic. For instance, how many times have you seen a business presentation that has all those funny black illustrations of a shape of a person that has a circled face or a circled head, and there's just hands and legs, and they're probably moving one or two things from one place to another. Those are generic. You don't need that. For everything, for everything you do, your images should be able to communicate what the design is trying to communicate. See, win at life with a ball in your court. Imagine if the image used for this design is somebody sleeping. Imagine if the image used for this design right here is somebody sleeping. I'm sure you'd be thrown off. Ademola says the images on the stock website often have watermarks. Now, they are watermarked because they are for sale. They put the watermark there so that if you download them without a proper purchase, you'll not be able to use them. But if you purchase them, if you pay for it, you get a clean image without a watermark. Now, Freepik has a lot of clean image that you can download for free, absolutely free. Freepik.com, FREEPIK.com. Freepik. They have good images, they have illustrations, they have AI generated images that you can use. Okay? But you get what I'm saying? Your image should be relatable. Your image should communicate. It is very important. Now, let me talk about image rights. For those of you mentioning exactly, Unsplash is also very good. For those of you mentioning Google and Pinterest, now Pinterest is a space that is not for images. It's not for you to download images. It's just like Instagram. You're scrolling through different images from different people, right? On those pictures there have been uploaded from one person's phone to the site, which means the quality has been reduced. If you download it from Instagram to your phone, the quality reduces again. In fact, you can't even download it from Instagram. You have to take a screenshot. That reduces the quality. For you to be able to get clean images, go to stock websites. There are ways to download clean images on Google. I'll tell you, I'll show you that. I'll tell you as well. But be careful of image usage rights. Because, for instance, let me give you a perfect example. So, for instance, I take a picture of maybe birds flying on a rooftop and I upload it online, right? Now, that picture was taken by me. It is my intellectual property. Because I upload it online, you as a designer, you wanted to design something and you see the image of birds flying on the roof as something that will pass a correct message, right? Something that is relatable, that would be good for your design. And you go ahead to use it without reaching out to me to find out if I'll give you consent to use that. Without reaching out or without copywriting the person that owns the picture. that person can actually take you to court. That person can actually take you to court. And guess what? You pay a lot of money for it. And you'll be thinking, is it not just image I downloaded on Google? The person that owns the image says they have the right and they can decide who used the image or not you, right? This is the reason why stock images are important. On Google, you see the copyright and the everything, but you can't tell who owns the image or how to reach out to them. But stock images, they make it easy for you. You can tell that, okay, whoever has this image has uploaded it on maybe Shutterstock or iStock for sale. And when you pay money and you get those images, you are licensed to use it. Why? Because you bought it. Okay? Now, every stock image site, like I said, they have the license because they are stock photographers that upload those images there. Now, let's talk about quality, the importance of quality. I mentioned that if your images are blurred, it will affect what you're trying to communicate in your design. Now, I'm sure you would have noticed the trend in all the images I've been showing you. They are crisp, clean, clear, very sweet looking images. In fact, they are so clean, you might just want to off the image before you even use it. Why? Because they are stock images that are purchased. And that's because quality plays a major role. People will take you serious when your image is sharp enough for them to see and is not blurry. They'll take you serious. They'll take you serious when your images play a major part. Okay? So now it is not just about the content. It is also a technical side to images, which can have a big impact on your design. It doesn't matter if you're choosing a picture that's absolutely perfect in every way. If it's pixelated or it's blurry, it gives the wrong impression. See the way this image is here. This is a perfect image for the design, right? You can see the design on the right-hand side. You can just tell that, oh, these images fit perfectly well on the design. But imagine that this image is blurry and you cannot see the man's face. The design will look different to you. It wouldn't make more sense the way it's making sense to you right now. It wouldn't make more sense. You keep wondering, what happened? Is it a design style? Or did they upload the wrong quality online? Or what's going on? Right? You're just in some form of confused state where you're trying to understand what's happening. Now, you are the audience trying to understand what's happening. The fact that you can't understand what's happening, it means that the designer has failed because it's communicating an entirely different thing from what it's supposed to communicate. I'm trying to communicate here that you can play golf on this land or whatever. That is the reason for the image, right? You can see the man smiling and playing his golf. If the image is not clear enough, you cannot tell what the man is doing. You'll not be able to tell what the man is holding or if the man is wearing glasses or not. Images are very important to be in good quality. Now, you need to look, so always at all times, look for quality images. Remember I mentioned Google. If you're trying to get images on Google, there's a part where you see tools. Let me Let me show you that real quick. Now, look at my screen. Can you see my screen? So let's look for a picture of a farmland. Now, this is Google, right? And I'm trying to get image of farmland. So I go to images and it brings up this many options. Now, when you click on any image, put your mouse over your mouse on it, and the size will come up. See the size, 1,200 by 500 pixels, because they are in pixels. So 1,200 by 500 pixels. This is a very good quality image that you can use. So you can download, you can save image as, then use that. Now, in cases where all the images are in low quality, just click on tools. There's tools here. You click on tools, come to size, and click large, which means all the results will be only large images. Now you see that the results change. Click on any, and you see the size 12 by 900, 128 by 720. You see the sizes are bigger. 15 by 1075, 1387 by 75. Now let's change that size to icon. You see how small they will look. See, 256 by 256. You see how small it is now. So imagine carrying a 256 by 256 pixel for a design that is meant to be printed. It's going to be so blurry, you would even detest seeing it. So you see why quality is important, right? So back to our class. Now, there is such a thing as raster and vector, or raster and vector. There's a reason smaller images lose quality when you enlarge them. It's because they are made up of thousands or sometimes even millions of pixels. Like a picture on your phone, the more you zoom in, the more you zoom in, the more you zoom in, it gets blurry and blurry and blurry. That's because it is a raster image. It is raster. That image, that type of image is raster. Now, get me clearly. Images are broken into two parts, raster and vector. Raster is the image that when you keep zooming in, it gets blurry. It becomes blurry. Okay? You guys don't worry about the WhatsApp group. We'll get that all sorted out when we're done with the class today. Okay? Just chill a bit. Now, because the image is made up of tiny little pixels, the more you zoom in, it takes you closer to the pixels. The more you zoom in, it takes you closer to the pixel. The more you zoom in, it takes you closer to the pixel. Let me give you an example. Okay. Let me show you something. So now let's say this image, or okay, let's go back to a big image so that you get to understand. So a bigger image, right? This is big. Let's save this. Save to download. Okay, and I want to view the image. Now this is the image. Can you see my screen? This is the image here, right? Now I want to zoom in to the image. I'm zooming in. Remember I said this image is made up of, remember I said this image is made up of what? It's made up of little tiny pixels. So as I'm zooming in, it will be breaking itself into pixels. Before you know it, you start seeing shapes. Now you can see it's all blurred out. It's all blurred out. This is a raster type of image. It is all blurred out. It is a raster type of image. Now, there are softwares that are raster based. Photoshop is one of that. And there are softwares that are vector based. Illustrator and CorelDRAW are examples of vector based softwares. Okay. Now back to our slide. Now, vector, on the other hand, vector are very, very different from raster. You know, I said raster images, as you zoom in, they lose quality because they are made up of tiny little pixels, right? But vector, on the other hand, is very different from raster because you can make vector in any size. Any size. Vector can be in any size. A vector can be increased, increased, and it will not get blurry. It will not get blurry one bit. I will show you an example. Just give me a minute. Now, you see this on the right hand side, you see a business card. The logo of the business card that has like the shape of a cone or ice creams, whatever. That's an example of a vector shape or a vector image rather. That's an example. Now, if I take this shape to Adobe Illustrator, if I take it to Adobe Illustrator, you see how the vector file is, and it doesn't lose its quality, right? Now, look at this on this image here. Look at the paper, the torn part of the paper, that part that has like rough edges. It gives the feel of a paper. That's a vector image. While the image on top that shows the conference, that is a raster image. Raster and vector. I said vector does not lose quality, right? I'll show you something now. Okay. So I have, can you see my screen? If you can see my screen, tell me what you see. white board, white background. Good. Okay, now let me blank white page. Great, great, great. Okay, so let me quickly show you an example of raster, or as a vector rather. Now, this is a shape, right? A black shape. And let me make it a bit interesting for you. I want to transform and distort the shape and make it twist, right? Okay, now we have this shape, which does not have a name. What does that make it? An organic shape, right? So we have this organic shape. Now, this shape here, I want to zoom in so you see that this shape does not lose its quality. Now I'm zooming in. Watch closely. I'm zooming in. You see that the shape doesn't lose its quality. Are you seeing? Still as sharp as ever. Still sharp as ever. In fact, as I zoom in, it seems like it gets sharper. The more I zoom in, the more sharper it gets. The more I zoom in, the sharper it gets. This is an example of a vector image. That's an example of a vector image. Okay? Now, imagine I bring in the image of the farm into this place now. Now, the software that is opened here is Illustrator. Remember I said Illustrator is vector-based, but Illustrator can still show you what I was explaining about raster. Now, let's zoom in. Zoom in. These are those tiny pixels. Are you seeing the pixels? These are the pixels. These are the pixels. These boxes, these individual boxes are what makes up the pixels. They are what are called pixels. These boxes you see, as I zoom in, the boxes see them. This one is lighter, this is darker, this is darker. They are different shades. But when I zoom out, see what they create. When I zoom out, they create that farmland. You can see a farmland. But when I zoom in, you start seeing pixels. That is a simple example. This right here is raster. This right here is vector. Capiche? Okay, now let's talk about editing images. Editing images. Okay, Busayo wants to say something. Okay, Busayo, give me a minute. All right, Busayo, you can speak. Go on, Busayo. All right, unmute yourself and speak. Busayo. Okay, I think that was a mistake. Anyway, now, I said editing images, right?
Hello, can you hear me now?
Okay. I can hear you, Busayo. Go on.
Okay, initially I could not unmute the
Oh, okay.
mic for me to speak in.
All right.
Okay. So, from what you explained so far now, I find out that the vector and the rive, it's more or less like that, and vector is a plane, a kind of like any plane image, plane or color image. But that vector has to do with the image, has to do with like a picture. Can we differentiate?
Okay. I would differentiate that for you now.
Okay, even with a picture for the vector.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll show you something real quick. Just give me a minute. I'll show you something now. Because I just use that shape to show you that it can be any shape. But I get the idea. You want to see an image in vector form, right? Now, okay, back to my software. Now, this is an image, but this is a vector image, which is called an illustration, right? Now, you can see I can move it to where I want and bring it back. Now, let's zoom in, right? Because we want to zoom in, so let's zoom in. The idea is to see if it gets blurry or not, right? Vector images are not real-life images. Remember when I was talking about form the other day, I showed you an example of a two-dimensional image, which is flat. And I showed you that adding form makes it look real. It is not a real image. Look at, let me show you from principles, right? Now, I'll show you now, just hold on. I'll show you the perfect example. Now, look at my screen. Look at the two images here. You can see the first one on top, and you can see the one below. The first one on top is a real image of a cactus plant. And the one below is a vector image of a cactus plant, which means the one below was illustrated. The one above was a snapshot taken from a real picture, a real cactus plant. So it's a picture. The one below is an illustration of that cactus plant. And form and texture have been used to make it look real, but it is not what? It is not real. I hope that is clear now. Okay, so now let's go back to Illustrator. We are zooming in this image to see if it maintains its raster nature, right? Now, zooming in, I'm zooming in, just keep watching closely. You see, it's not bringing out any pixel because this is a vector image. It gets clearer as I zoom in. Compare to this one that gets blurry when I zoom in and brings about pixels. So Busayo, I see. Olayemi said I can understand form better now. You see where it comes in, because I guess you guys were thinking that it's a real image. It's not a real image. Form plays a part in a flat image. Like this, see now, this is flat. Let me even give you an example of form. See, this is flat, right? Let me change this to pale, right? This is flat. Now, for it to cease from being flat, I can add a shadow. You see? I've added a shadow. It is no longer flat. Now you feel like it is sitting on something. Now it feels like it's sitting on something. I can decide to reduce this to maybe 20. Okay, let's use 30%. See. It feels like it's sitting on something. That is how form, that's what form does. If I take away the shadow, it goes back to normal. See it without the shadow. No, it is not 3D. It is still two-dimensional. Okay? Vectors are majorly flat, but they have hyper-realistic fields. It is not 3D. Yes, that's why it's flat. It is not 3D. The fact that it is flat is all you need to know that it is not 3D. Let me give you another, let me show you another example. Look at this image, this illustration of London. You can see that this is London. You can tell because you see things that are in real life in London illustrated here in this image. Do you get? But you cannot say it is three-dimensional because you can't see the other sides. So what does that mean? It is what? Two-dimensional. You can only see two parts, either the front and the side, or the front and the top, or something. Two-dimensional, flat. Immediately you start to see three sides. That's three-dimensional. And I gave you an example. I said a cone, or a ball, or a cylinder. In fact, let's make it more interesting. A bottle is three-dimensional. Your cup is three-dimensional. Your pot is three-dimensional. Your table is three-dimensional. Your backpack is three-dimensional as well. Your wristwatch, my headset, is three-dimensional. Yes, you don't refer to shapes with shadow as form. You refer to shapes with shadow as it now has form. Okay? Good. I'm glad you're all following. So you get the idea now. Now, let's talk about editing images, which is where we're going to. We want to edit images. We want to see what editing images look like or why we need to edit images. Now, this is a very good example of editing images. You can see that this is the original image. Now, I want you to take a closer look at the basket, the net for the ball, right? On the image, you see it's torn and almost destroyed. But you see that the one in the design is a different net. The question you ask yourself now is, how did we get there? How did that happen? How did you do it? Exactly, different nets. What did I do? I edited it. I said that, oh, this net is bad and it's not good for me to show a bad net in this design. Let it not look like I'm selling a destroyed basketball court to whoever it is. And I decided to change it. And I did, which is why you see a different net here. Now, another thing I did was I made the text to come behind the lady. And you can see that there's a shadow on the text that reflects that the lady's hand is on the text. So there's a shadow reflecting from her hand toward the text. That is edit. Oh, very good, Adiola. Very good, very good, very good, very good. Yes, I removed the white player. That's very keen attention to detail. I removed the white player. Why? Remember I mentioned that we are in Africa and Nigeria, and the people here are mostly dark-skinned people. I know we have people that are white, we have white people in our country and stuff, but this is the demographic of people here. The background changed. What I did was I removed every distracting factor from the image before taking it into the design. What have I done? I have successfully edited the image. Yes, I removed some of the buildings. Good. I removed some of the buildings. I removed the trees. I don't need them. They were distracting because I wanted you to know that these ladies are playing basketball. They were the focal point of the design, not the trees, not the building, not the white lady. That's the idea. Remember, I said attention to detail. Some other people can just carry the image. I mean, it's playing basketball already, and you're talking about courts. They can just carry the image and place it there and place their text, and design is ready. But the fact that you paid attention to detail is what will let you know that, oh, this net is bad, change it, and you change the net. Oh, this girl is white, remove her, and you take her out. Oh, these buildings are causing a distraction, take them away, and you did. Like, yeah, I know I didn't need the credit card, and I put the key. I know I didn't want to put a blank phone, so I put a screenshot of a debit alert, so that the message is well communicated properly. The designer is meant to always look beyond what he sees, do some inner thinking. Now, in editing images, there are lots of different examples, from changing the image to black and white, to cropping the image, to resizing the image, to putting the image in maybe a shape or something. It also includes increasing the brightness, increasing the contrast, maybe increasing the saturation or the color or something. All of that are in all the softwares you can be edited. Exactly, I duplicated the key. Very good, very good. I'm glad you saw that. So you just, as a designer, you need to actually just sit back, think, and ask yourself, what kind of image best communicates for this design? What kind of illustration would work? What edits should I apply to this image? Should I resize the image? Should I turn the image to black and white? Should I change the color of the sky? Should I change the color of the background of the image? What should I do to help my image be better? Those are the questions you ask yourself, not the client or not the person that has the design. Do you get? Those are questions the designer asks in his or herself. So they help you tell that, okay, these are the kind of pictures, these are the kind of images, these are the kind of stuff you need to use. As you can see on the designs in front of you, the images are edited. Like this image here now, the image on the right, the person inserting money into the soil. That's trying to show investing into land, right? Now, this and is a different element. The money here is a different element. The land here is a different element, right? Whoever is drawing on my slide, stop it, please. Thank you. Okay, now I said the hand, a different element. Money, a different element. This land is a different element. This background, a different element. Bringing all together from wherever I got them, and I created this composition. Okay? Now, this is another example. Remember, when you put it all together, it means that your photos, your graphics, images, did I say images? Photos, graphics, maybe illustration, text, color, and all the other principles and the fundamentals, when you put them together and add it with layout and composition and selecting the right image, you get a very good design. If you look at the example on the screen, the three examples, you see that there is a uniformity in the color. Remember when we talked about repetition? This is a perfect example of repetition. This is the example. This is a very great example of repetition you should see. This is repetition in play. It's the same brand. The same brand, and you see the same colored background, the same choice of color, the same use of font. That's how repetition works. This is repetition in layout and composition. This is how repetition works. And you can also see exactly less is more. You get the idea now. You get the idea now. I like that you people are seeing everything that I've been telling you. Now you see the text are aligned to the left, but everything on the design is aligned to the middle, right? Now, who remembers this, our guy from the other day? The guy on skateboard. The image had to also be what? Edited to give us the results. Yes, the guy from the first day of training. The guy decided to come back. He wanted to show you guys more, so he's here. Let's call him Mr. A. So Mr. A is here again today. Alignment does not have scale. No, alignment doesn't have scale. Alignment is different. Scale is different. Okay. Yes, good. So yes, same Mr. A, but not just minor difference. Well, I would say major, because yeah, on the original image, somebody say he had pride. So on the original image, right, you see that Mr. A and his skateboard are on a different colored floor. But on our own design here, the floor is red. And the background where Mr. A is skating on is actually pinkish. But we have a white background in the design. You see? Yes, white space. You can also see that underneath his skateboard here, there is positivity and purpose. On the real image, there's nothing written there. Do you get it? Good. So that's how it works. That's how you edit your images. That's how you get it all cleared. That's how you set things in motion. That's how you pick the right images to use. That's where you pick. So remember, in picking images, quality is important. In your design, these ladies and this family, they also came back with Mr. A. That's because now you understand that they play a major role in what? Layout and composition and selecting the right image to use. So now when you look at the designs, you look at them differently because now you can understand that, okay, the layout is here. Do repetition in composition and layout deals with more than one design only? Yes, it has to be. The idea of repeating something is to show that it is more than one. Do you get? So if I repeat something on one design and I'm repeating it on another design, and you can see that, oh, these designs have a similarity, then I have achieved repetition. Then I have achieved repetition. But if it's just one design, you cannot actually tell the work of repetition. Do you get it now? Okay, so no, the idea is written in the center. Okay, that is also repeated. Yes, that is also repeated. Ideas outlined behind it. Yes, that's repetition. So now that repetition there is the repetition in principles of design. That repetition is in the one of principles of design that can be used to create pattern, right? But the repetition in having similar elements in multiple designs is the repetition of layout and composition. That's the repetition as a principle of layout and composition. Yeah, repeated background, repeated colors, repeated. You can see palm trees and leaves in like two of the designs. That's repetition. Do you get it? Okay, this guy, this family. Now, let's go to questions. So you have questions, you can raise up your hand and speak, or you can type in the chat box. Okay, Olayemi. All right, Olayemi, go on.
Good morning, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Good morning.
Please, I need a reflection on editing of images
Okay, so
and alignment
I should recap.
and alignment, because the network was so poor then.
Okay. All right, let me respond to that. Okay, now I said editing images could be in various forms, either removing the background or resizing the image, or this is a perfect example now. I changed the background of this image. I've done what? Edited it. That's one. On this, on this, I resized the image and cropped out some parts. I said when you crop an image, you have done what? Edited it. So cropping, resizing, adding things on the image is editing. Removing things from the image is editing, which is what we did here. If I even say, okay, I want to change this white jacket to this white hoodie to red, I've edited it. Changing the credit card to a key is an edit. as long as you don't use the image the way you got it online, it has been edited. If you resize the image, it has been edited. If you crop the image, it has been edited. If you add anything to that image or you remove anything from that image, it has been edited. Okay. Now, the last question, the last part of your question, you said, sorry. The last question you said, alignment. You want to understand alignment. Now, I mentioned that alignment helps you to arrange your design. It helps you put it in context. And because of how important alignment is, you can actually miss it if you try to overdo it. So because of that, I said what? Be consistent with your alignment. If you want to align to the left, align everything to the left. And I showed you. Now, this aligns everything to the middle. You can see the image and text are in the middle. The same thing here, the same thing here. That's alignment. On this side, now, everything here is also aligned to the middle. Everything here is aligned to the middle. Everything on this one is going to be aligned to the left. On this design, everything is aligned to the middle. Alignment is what gives your overall design or composition a sense of being organized, properly organized. You see alignment all over here. You see alignment here, everything aligned to the middle. Okay. So now, let me get some other questions. Lukman says, do repetition in composition and layout deals with, okay, I've answered that already. How can vector photos be gotten? You know, the same way I said there are stock websites for images. Interestingly, on those stock websites, you can actually get them as well. You can actually get vector images. Meanwhile, there are websites that are solely based on vector images that you can get. And FreePic that I mentioned earlier can give you vector images of very good quality. Okay. Then David says, is there a clear, distinct difference between alignment and rule of third? Yes. Yes. Because alignment is the overall arrangement of everything on your design. But rule of third speaks to where you want your image to be. So it doesn't speak to alignment. Okay. Olayemi said difference between composition and layout. Okay, like I said, they are not, layout and composition are not different. So layout and composition are not, they are not different. Okay, they work hand in hand, in sync. They are together because, see what I said. See, this is a layout. And in the layout, they have composition. And I can also say, this is a composition that has a layout. Do you get? Okay. Sule says, sorry, because of your network that was 40 at first. At the end of the class, can you please run through for a while? Okay, I could just do a quick summary of everything. Okay. The difference between composition and layout. Oh, I just explained that again just now. There's no difference. They are together. That is why it is not composition or layout, but composition and layout. Okay. Chibuike says, when creating an image design, must we download our images? Can't we create our own images? Okay, so depends on the kind of images or the kind of image you want to use. Are you using a raster image or are you using a vector image? Now, both images can be created. What do I mean? A raster image, a vector image can be created from scratch. You just have to think. You can draw it if you want, or you can download an existing drawing or an illustration, right? But for raster, because it is a picture of a real life event or a real life entity, let's say a building of a house, is either you download a building of a house or you take your camera and take a picture of the exact house you want. That's how it works. That's why you see a lot of influencers on some companies' ad, because those pictures were taken in a studio or maybe on the road or anywhere. They took those pictures how they wanted it because that's what they wanted to use. They didn't want to download a picture of a woman or a picture of a man on any of the stock images or stock sites. Okay. Abdulaziz say, please review hierarchy. So we've been talking about hierarchy from day one. We talked about hierarchy as a principle. I'm sure we talked about hierarchy in typography as well. And we talked about hierarchy in color, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, in typography, not color. Now, hierarchy is just what tells you what to read first and what follows. For instance, when you see this slide, the first thing you see is the word alignment because it's bigger than every other thing. And then the next thing you go to is what alignment is to Plenty's story. That's because I've been able to use hierarchy to control where your eye goes from one to the other. Now, Akintaya says, how do we get suitable elements to use? Most of the pictures online are watermarked. Maybe you missed the part where I was talking about the pictures. So I said, on stock sites, the images are for sale. And when you buy them, the watermarks are removed. Okay. When you buy them, that takes off the watermark. However, when you use Google and you're trying to use an image of another person, be careful of what copyright and usage rights, because it's very dicey when someone takes you to court for using their image without their consent. They can charge you money that's equivalent to your entire life savings. And I'm sure you're not ready for that. So play it safe. If you're working for a client, they should give you images of their products, or they should give you a license or a paid subscription to any of the stock sites so you can download. But there are other stock sites that are free, and I mentioned a few of them. I said Pixabay. I said Unsplash. Someone wrote Unsplash on the chat, so you can use Unsplash. Freepik, on the other hand, is a good place to get free images as well. Freepik. You can get images on Freepik. Freepik.com. Okay. Freepik.com. Freepik has lots of variety of images, and there are lots of free images for you on Freepik. Okay. So any more questions? More questions? More questions? before I run through the slides one more time. If you have a question, just raise your hand. I would notify you to speak. Okay? Further questions before I proceed? Okay. About the question on fonts. Okay, go on. Lawal, you wanted to ask a question on fonts. Go ahead. Thank you, Olayemi. Stated, how can fonts be put up for general use? When you say general use, what do you mean? So okay, let me help you. So you know the street sign, the sign on the road where you see stop, where you see go, or where you see the name of a street. That's the use of font. Okay. Now you mean adding style of font? I don't get your question. Can you, if you want to say it, you could raise up your hand, so I just allow you to quickly talk. Say it. Okay, I'm not getting the question. But let me quickly run through the slides. Okay, Lawal, you can speak. Just unmute and speak.
All right, thank you very much. So what I was trying to say is that adding fonts to defaults, like I mentioned, like if you want, like you mentioned the other time, that you can create your own fonts and add it, for general for anyone to use. So that's what I'm trying to reiterate. That's if you need to create your own personal fonts and add it for general use, like anybody can use it, just like you make mention of other style of fonts. Yes. So you said you'll see that at the end of the section.
Okay. Well, I'm actually intrigued by the fact that you people want to learn how to make fonts. I find that fascinating, but no problem. We'll get to that part. Okay. Now let me quickly run through the slides for benefits of those who came in or had network glitch like I did in the beginning. So today's class has been quite an interesting one. So layout and composition was what we talked about today. And I said it is not layout or composition, but layout and composition, because they go hand in hand. You see, I said in many ways, layout and composition are the building blocks of design, which means that everything you do in your design is on the layout and it is made up of compositions. Okay. Why is composition so important? Because it is the way your content in a design is arranged, which means that if you look at this slide, the way this text is here, the way there's black here, there's white here, the way the text is in the middle, that is what a composition. Now, I said there are 5 basic principles for this. And I also said to master layout and composition, just think like a designer. And remember, I mentioned that a designer is someone who looks beyond what they see, is someone who can see what other people don't see while looking at the same thing. Right? Now, proximity is one of those principles. White space, which is another familiar principle in design, plays a part in layout and composition as well. Alignment is another interesting factor. Contrast plays a very good role. Then I said repetition is not repeating a shape to create patterns like we talked about in principles of design, but is repeating an element in a design to another design, which is how we got to this part where things are repeated. Okay. Now, we talked about proximity, and I said proximity is the arrangement of grouping, like grouping stuff together to show a relationship in a design. Let me give you an example. See this, is it? Yeah. This is proximity. Image down here, text up here. Image down here, text up here. That's how proximity works. Okay. Then the next one is white space. And like we all know, white space is an effective negative space. Like all the spaces here are white space. A white space is a clean space. It doesn't have anything on it. It's clean. It's white space. See all the sides of this design. That's white space for you. Okay. Now, the next is alignment. Alignment is how everything on your design, especially text, is aligned. Now, when it comes to alignment, your texts are majorly aligned automatically in your design. Texts are auto-aligned, or you can adjust it. You can change where you want it to be aligned to, or how you want it to be aligned. You can change that. Okay, it's up to you. But most times in major cases, your text is aligned automatically. Maybe when you're creating a document or maybe an email, it's auto-aligned. Okay, and I said when aligning objects by yourself, remember text is auto-aligned. Now, when you want to now align other objects by yourself, the trick is to be consistent, which means if you use center alignment for the first one, just continue and align everything in the center, which is how we got to here. Right? Okay, somebody wants me to talk on monochromatic, tetradic, triadic, analogous, complementary color schemes. Okay, let me just quickly round up with this recap. I would answer your question, Kenneth. Okay, so this illustration and the text are all aligned to the center. Same for this, same for the next one. Because in alignment, paying attention to detail is a very crucial thing. So you don't lose your audience, so you don't make your design feel disorganized. Okay. Now we talked about contrast, and I know we talked about contrast also yesterday. We talked about contrast today. We talked about contrast on Monday. So contrast is in everything. It's just the difference in two items: light and dark, big and small, colored and not colored, size and everything. So it's just about style. It's just about how the elements are different from each other. Like I showed you here. This is a very simple example, right? Then we talked about hierarchy. In fact, hierarchy is another thing we'll be talking about repeatedly from Monday, which is closely related to contrast, but it's also close to emphasis, but it's not. Hierarchy just tells you this is what to read first, this is what to read next, this is what follows. Why? Because it is important for easy understanding of a design. When you look at this, save the date is the first thing you see. Then you know what to read next, and then the next, like that. That's how hierarchy works. Okay. Then repetition, which is what I just mentioned, that it is just having similar elements on more than one design. Consistency. Then lastly, I said layout and composition are the unsung heroes of design, because you cannot do any design without layout or without composition. Immediately you open your software and you start designing, you're already creating a composition. Composition is made up of text, image, elements, name it, shapes, everything that you add in your design is composition. Now see this is a central alignment, and this is a perfect composition. This is an example. This is an example. Then we moved on to the power of images, where I've been telling you how important images are and the role they play in your designs, and the fact that they can be edited to fit in what you want, and you can also get into trouble for using an image that has a copyright on it. Okay, so edit your image properly. And I remember telling you the difference between raster type of image and vector type of image. Raster are made of tiny millions of pixels. And I showed you an example where I was zooming in and you could see the pixels. And for vector, there was no pixels because it's vector and it doesn't have a zoom. It doesn't get blurry, it doesn't get rasterized. Okay, so these are more examples to show you how the images are edited and fit into the design. This is the perfect example of repetition, like I said. This is an example of an edited image. Same for all of this, right? So now, let's go back to color, triadic, tetradic, complementary, analogous, and all of them. So Kenneth, monochromatic, like I said yesterday, is the use of one color. It's a formula. Remember, they are formulas. They are under a formula called color harmony, right? They help you in creating color schemes. Now, the first one is monochromatic, which is the simplest. Pick one color and either saturate the image, the colors up, or saturate the colors down, which means to make it more vibrant, which is highly saturated, or to make it less vibrant, which is subtle or desaturated. That is what creates the monochromatic color scheme, right? The next is analogous. Analogous is 3 set of colors close to each other, not one color here, one color here, one color here. No, it is one color here, one color here, one color here. They are close to each other. Or this set, because they are close. That's how analogous colors work. Okay, now, complementary are simply 2 colors opposite each other. So it could be this and this. 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 As long as the colors are opposite of themselves. As long as they are opposite of each other. You see that? That's how complementary colors work. Then I said there's split complementary. The split complementary, which means if you pick 2 colors, one color up on one side and 2 colors on the other side, which means you can do, if you pick this, you can pick this and this. That gives you that shape. Clear? Now, triadic a perfect triangle, just pick any three. Same thing. You can do this, this, this. That's your triangle. That is it. It's as easy as that. The next is tetradic. Tetradic makes use of a rectangle. So there are colors that are on 4 pairs. So and that rectangle, I mentioned that it can be this way. It can be this way. It can be this way. Okay? It can be this way. It's all up to you. Right? So I think I've answered that question. Okay. So any more questions? Any more questions? Okay, if you have a question, just raise your hand. Before that, tomorrow we'll just do a brief recap of what we talked about today, yesterday, and day one, which is Monday. Then I will go into showing you the different softwares used for design and their differences. What differentiates them? You know, I mentioned that Photoshop is a software made for raster images, used for raster images. Then Illustrator and CorelDRAW are softwares for vector images. Okay, so tomorrow we'll open all those softwares, see their interfaces, see the differences, and I will tell you what you can do with them and what not to do with them. You get, because sometimes each of the software can do the same thing, but it doesn't mean that you should use them for that thing. Okay, so raster images are images made up of tiny pixels. When you zoom in, you see pixels. When you zoom out, you see a perfect image. Now, when you're seeing pixels, it means the image is blurry. It gets blurry. That's what it means. It's getting blurry. You get it gets blurry. Like the farmland picture, perfect. I can show it to you again so you see. This is it right here. This is farmland. It's a raster image. This is it. You can see a perfect farmland, but if I start to zoom in, it gets blurry and even more blurry. And it keeps getting blurry, and then you start seeing the pixels. The pixels are these little boxes. These boxes are what creates the image, see? That is it. Great. So any more questions? If you have questions from Monday, if you have questions from yesterday or today, just send them in. Any more questions? Anybody with a question? Okay, so while we don't have that, let me quickly talk on how to create a font, how to create your own font. Now, in creating your own font, when are we going to be divided into the cohorts? Okay, that will be discussed. The class has been showing slides for you. Thank you so much. Can non-raster images be rasterized? Yes, they can. But when they become rasterized, it just means that you cannot, it just means that when you zoom in or zoom out, they become blurry. You get it? It just means when you zoom in or zoom out, they become blurry. That's what it means. How does one ensure an image doesn't have copyrights? One is to use a stock image, because stock images are purchased. When you buy something, you have all the rights. When you buy an image or you buy something, you have all the rights, right? So that's how you ensure to stay away from copyright. Don't just go and pick any image from anywhere. Make sure. So either you buy an image or you take a picture of your own image for yourself, or you create an illustration. Okay. Now, what's the difference between raster and vector? That's what I just explained now. Raster are made up of what I call pixels. So when I was zooming out just now, you saw those little boxes in that image. These boxes, you are seeing the image. These are pixels. This is a raster image. Now, while you're seeing those boxes, be mindful that the image is getting blurry. See it? It gets blurry the more I zoom in. It gets blurry. Are you saying it's not as clear as it used to be? This is raster. And I said vector, on the other hand, the more I zoom in, it stays as sharp as ever. You can see. I'm zooming in, it's still sharp. It does not have please don't worry, the slides will be shared, so you get to see the stuff. But if you have any question, I just ran through the class again a few minutes ago. I just ran through the classes again a few minutes ago. Okay. So let me just try to help you here. Images play a major role in designs, and they're very important. For that purpose, it is expedient to decide what kind of image to use for your design. Also, quality is a very, very important factor, which is how we got to this part, because if your image is blurry, it sends a different message. But if it's as clear as possible, then your message is crisp. And I said, editing images involve cropping, resizing, removing unwanted things from the image, giving tips to get legal images through Google. No, I don't think that was what I said. I said I would show you how to get sizable images on Google, which I remember going to Google and showing you how to make sure that the images are to size. Another thing you should also see is this. Let me show you something. Bam. Now, on the image, no, there's no slide that explains vector. I explained that to you easily. You don't need a slide for that, okay? Now, on the image, okay. So on the image, yeah, you can see it says images may be subject to copyright. Click another image, it has the same thing. Click the next one, it has. So all the image on Google are subject to copyright. But now let's make it interesting. Let's go to iStock. iStock is a stock site. where you buy images, like I mentioned earlier. This is iStock. Let's now go to farm. Should I say farmland? We're looking for farm. Now this is, I want this, and I click on it. Now, this is what you see. Because I'm not signed in, it's asking me to get the image for free, which means I have to do some registration, right? But if I'm signed in, all I need to do is click download because I have a paid account. So I can get the image without, now see, it says it includes our standard license, which means this image, the copyright picture of this image has been done. Okay, Kenneth. Okay, I'll answer your question as a roundup. So for those of you that didn't get the class, missed the classes due to network piece, and Olayemi, you're asking for slides. The class is on YouTube, so you can rewatch on YouTube. Okay, and the link to the classes are on the Zoom. When I'm downloading an image, can I know if it's raster or vector? It is very clear. See, let me help you understand it one last time. Look at this. At ABC, can you see the two images here? You can see the one on top is a real image. The one down is a vector image. That's the difference. You can see them and tell the difference. They are very different in appearance. That is the difference. So, about the different principles for different topics. Okay, so like I said, every principle, every aspect or every topic has its own principle. And the main principles of design, right? They are unity, balance, hierarchy, contrast, emphasis, scale or proportion, repetition, white space. That's for principles of design. Then fundamentals of design also has its own, which is line, shape, form, texture, and balance. So I also said some words or some principles can reoccur, which is why you see balance in principles and balance here as well. So it can reoccur in typography, and in color. Okay, in typography majorly, what reoccurred was hierarchy. You see, so it is different, but hierarchy means the same thing everywhere. The principles mean the same thing everywhere. You are repeating the same. For repetition, you are repeating something. Even though for layout and composition, it means repeating it on different designs. But in principles, it still means repeating something, as long as there's repetition, right? So all the classes are on YouTube. Day 1, day 2, and this one is also on YouTube. So if you miss anything, you can always rewatch. Okay? So this, we'll call it a wrap here. We'll draw the curtain. Thank you so much for your questions. Thank you for your time. And thank you for the engagement. It was very engaging. Okay, so tomorrow, like I said, we'll go into the softwares, their interfaces, how to get fonts, how to pick color and how to check their whether they are raster based or vector based. We check all of that. All right. Thank you very much and have a very good day. Thank you, Smart. Thank you.